So with people looking, maybe, I know at the moment there seems to be people who've got money from different sources and maybe they've had enough of working for a company and they're like, okay, I'm into this fitness space, I want to set up a company. Are there any sort of startup tips for people in terms of what would make a good solid model where if they wanted to raise some capital, particularly now, would have some of the right ingredients to, for them to kind of build a business around it? I know it's a very difficult question, but just in general, are there a few things that people should look at based on your experience?
I'll answer the question this way, because I don't have any exact areas, but the best businesses that I've ever been around or ever seen come out of a real frustration. And if there's no frustration, there's no business. So people have come into us in the past and said, I got this great idea. It's going to be aerial yoga, on a spin bike, with lights flashing, in a air conditioned environment. I'm like, why? What's the bit? Like, what's the frustration you're solving? Because I know I don't need to be on aerial yoga and do the bike, and it's not something I think I need, right? So if it's something you think you needed and you got it, and then 10,000 other people got it, okay, let's have a conversation. Maybe there's something, in there. But any business, a lot of software companies that are in our industry all came out of, health club operators who were pissed that they couldn't do what they wanted to do. So they started writing their own code, or they got someone to write their own code, and now several of them are billion-dollar companies. Some of the CRM businesses were health club operators who said, you know what, the software that's out there right now doesn't do what I need it to do, and it's causing me a lot of frustration, and I'm losing money. So let me go and build it, or let me go find someone to build it. So I think everything's got to start with a frustration that's in the market, figure out if other people have it, then figure out how big that would be if everyone was fixed or solved using your software, and then go out and test it and then raise money after.
Yeah. So do you think in a lot of cases then, when people are looking for this greatest idea that's never been imagined before, have you seen that a lot of the successful concepts are based on things that have been around but they've just delivered it in a better way?
I mean, that's a good question. I think technology is always, the king. But, if you said, Planet Fitness as an example, they stumbled upon Planet Fitness, because they had a failing health club. And they said, you know what, like this juice bar, we don't want to make any money. Get rid of it. These personal trainers, they're taking money from our clients. They're taking up all the space. Let's get those guys out. Group exercise instructors, pain in the ass to deal with, let's get them out, right? So they end up creating, Planet Fitness business model basically out of frustration and desperation. Now, if you and I sat down 30 years ago and said, hey, why don't we just craft up, what does the industry need? A self-serve laundromat, right? There's laundromats on every street corner, in every suburb, right? So why didn't we think of that, right? Because we didn't get to that point that was the business model, because we didn't know that's what really, that it worked. So the Planet Fitness guys proved that works.
Right. So for people that are starting and they need to raise money, like I listened to your story when you started Iron Planet, and apparently you kind of had a bunch of credit cards where you were able to sort of, I don't know whether I can say that or
Fitness
not.
Insight. Yeah, no, talk about it. No, I mean, you just get a credit card in the mail every week, and it's like, back then there was no Amazon Web Services, right? So you paid like $10,000 a month, and you had a couple of server racks, and there was a guy named Thomas who worked for me, who was like 24, probably had a drinking problem, and when the servers went down, he would have to go to the AT&T data center, literally go in, check in with his badge, and then reset the server, and goldsgym.com would turn back on. So back in the day, the one thing that they didn't teach you in business school is when do you know to fail? When do you know to say hey, this isn't working? And I think you come out of school and you think, hey, this is my first idea. It's big. I know it's going to be big, but the market wasn't ready for it. So, me going around trying to get health club operators to do online fitness nutrition programs. I mean, it's kind of ironic. We're talking about it now in 2021 and maybe happening. In 2000, I'd run around like a lunatic around the United States trying to get people to get their internet leads from the goldsgym.com site, upload their personal trainers, fitness nutrition programs, and we sold these cardboard cards for $1.99, and they sold them for $34.99. But when AT&T said, hey, we're turning the servers off tomorrow, you don't have any money left, you use one of the credit cards that was in the mail. So, because I didn't want to fail, because it was personal.
Right. And is that sort of like a good way? Is that something, a way to start? Because I guess if most people, it's not easy to raise money, and
yeah. Look, I'm not an advocate for people like leveraging up credit cards, but the point is, like, you got to start small,
right?
And try not to do it on your own. That's one of the takeaways I've had from some good mentors of mine. Said, if you're going to do a business, just make sure you got a couple partners, because it gets really lonely when you're running your own company.
Right.
But raising money, once you have something, go and raise small amount of money, then test it. There used to be a Series A investment, B, C, D, E. It was basically, okay, here's my Series A experiment. Can you fund this experiment? If it works, then I'll give you money for the next experiment, and so on and so forth. So that's what the letters used to mean. Now the letters are just massive amounts of capital. They're getting put into a company to try and grow the revenue and try and get it to an IPO, and an ultimate exit.
Right.
But it's not as much of an experiment. It's more of like a scaling operation.
Okay. So outside of coming to someone like you, if someone is looking for an investor, then what are they? What's the kind of some of the important things that you got to get in place? Like, my guess is getting your numbers right is a big one. But what are some of those things that probably people really need to spend the time on before they start talking to someone like that?
Yeah. So look, I mean, if it's a company that's got a product and they're looking to scale the product, I think you just got to start showing somebody, here's how good my marketing is. Every time I spend X dollars of marketing, it gets me X number of sales. So if you want someone to then fund, that formula, that's one way to raise capital. If you're if you see a big opportunity in the market and you've got some strong clients that'll become good references for investors, you could go put materials together. There's venture capital firms typically like to deal directly with an entrepreneur. It's a lot of work, but you get the local venture capital list, and you make calls and you send emails out, and you go to networking events, and you try and go on LinkedIn and find who do I know at this firm that might want to take a call. And most of these venture firms are looking at total addressable market. So how big can this company be?